Hello and welcome back to this Get Good at Business highlight. Today we are highlighting the good business owner, the great business owner, Lorraine Robinson. And I am so excited to be here and be interviewing her. I am your host, Taylor Proctor. I am a business coach here to help you get good at business so you can get back to the heart of why you got into business in the first place. And one of the ways that we do that is through the I Move method, which stands for intuition, marketing, operations, velocity, and execution. And today, as we interview Lorraine, we will be diving into her version of the I Move method, asking her questions about her intuition in business, how she's utilizing her marketing, her operations, applying strategic velocity building strategies, and executing with ease. So let's dive in and learn about Lorraine. She is a professional pianist and the Painless Piano Coach. She enjoys sharing her music in concert and collaborating with other musicians. Her favorite experience so far has been the role of pianist with an orchestra. She is a single mom of 3 amazing teenagers and lives in coastal Washington state. Oh, so beautiful. Already jealous. Her favorite things to do away from music are enjoying sunshine, sand, and the ocean as much as possible, preferably all at the same time. She had to financially support herself at 14, survived, and is now thriving after exiting a 17-year domestic violence marriage. And she's a past cast member of Entrepreneurship reality show and docuseries The Blox. Her business is all about helping people get good at playing the piano, right? So she said at one point she thought she'd have to stop playing piano due to excruciating pain in her arms and hands. But then she found a piano trainer who showed her how to release tension and to work with her body instead of against it. Now her passion is showing fellow piano players how to level up their skills with advanced techniques which avoid and alleviate repetitive motion injuries common to pianists so that they can play with greater ease and artistry. Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to dive in and learn more about you and your business. Some great bios and introductions there.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. It's a privilege.
Love it. So let's dive in. Obviously, there's some pivotal moments there as a piano player, playing with orchestras and in concerts and all those things, and that pain happening. How was that a catalyst to building your business that focuses on piano playing and overcoming those physical challenges?
Well, when I was really getting serious about piano as a young teen, somewhere along the line, I got it into my head that repetitive motion injuries and pain is just something that a serious pianist has to deal with. And it's part of life. If you practice for several hours a day, you're just going to get that. I'm not even sure where that got implanted in my brain, but for some reason it did. And I never thought to even tell my piano teacher, who I was working with at the time, that I was struggling with those issues. And unfortunately, because of the standard way that piano technique and posture is taught, those repetitive motion issues and injuries are fairly common when young pianists start practicing for several hours a day. So it happened because of the way that I learned, but I probably could have alleviated it if I had said something. So that's lesson number one, or at least alleviated in part. But it was a benefit in the long run, because when I moved to a new city and I started looking for another piano teacher to work with, I found an amazing piano trainer, mentor, who took me under her wing, who made space for me in her studio, even though she wasn't actually accepting any more students at that time. And she basically gave me back my ability to play the piano. At that point, I was just muddling through and playing because I loved it and I couldn't stop, but it hurt a lot to be able to play for any length of time or try to play really difficult pieces that were fun and enjoyable. It just hurt. So she was actually a teacher trainer as well. So she took teachers who already had their own studios and taught them how to teach their students better, which was amazing because I was already teaching by that point myself as well. And so I, of course, assimilated her ideas and methods and all the things that I learned from her into my own teaching methods at that point and just went with it. And kind of the catalyst, the ultimate catalyst was when I had the opportunity to go on the Blox, which was just over a year ago, 13 months ago now, in January of 2023. I filmed my season of the Blox, and the mentors and judges there really encouraged me to highlight what is unique and different about the way that I work with students. So that is when I really started mulling over the idea of how to present that I'm not just another piano teacher down the street. I am someone who really focuses on technique and posture and all of your foundational skills that you don't even think have anything to do with piano until someone shows you why they do have a lot to do with piano. So I really work with all of those foundational core skills to make your skills at the piano even better.
I love that. And I would imagine that it sounds like this is not something that a lot of people are talking about, and that a lot of piano players, especially those that are learning, right? They have a passion for it. They're in the pain. They just assume that this is how it actually goes. And either they power through and cause more long-term problems, or they quit because it's too painful and they didn't know there was another option.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy. It sounds like you're definitely filling a need there and have found a great niche.
Thank you. I feel like I have, and I'm super excited. My business has really started taking off just in the last few months as I'm really starting to finally, I feel like I've kind of been cocooned and hibernating
Mhm.
over this last year since coming home from the Blox, and now I'm finally able to start it's showing on the outside now. that transformation had to work its way from the inside out, and now I'm finally able to start really putting things into action now, and I'm really excited to see what happens.
I think that's amazing. And it's a perfect segue into our first of the I move, which is intuition, right? So, how are you tapping into your intuition? And it sounds like you've been cocooned, right? As you mentioned, and now it's really starting to come out and be front facing, which part of the intuition is mindset as well. So, love that. How are you tapping into your intuition to shape the vision of your business and really make sure that it supports that? Teaching musicians, teaching piano players how to play with more ease and artistry.
Well, I think a big part of following your intuition is figuring out what about your business, what about that idea initially sparked your, I don't want to sound cliche, but sparked your joy.
Right.
um, what made you feel fulfilled about that first idea, like imagining it come into being and fruition? What was so satisfying about imagining that come to be? And for me, really tapping into that and not letting anyone take that away from me. I've worked with many business coaches over the years, probably since my early 20s. So over 15 years that I've been working with business coaches for my piano. At one point, I called it piano teaching, just like everyone else does. Now I refer to it as piano coaching because I want people to see that it is different and it's a level up from the standard. But really, I allowed most of those business coaches to tell me what my business should look like and what I should do. And I believed them when they said, no one will want that if you offer it that way. No one will want what you're doing. And I believed them, and I let that shut me down, and I tried to be more mainstream, and that didn't work either. So really this last year has for me has been transformational in one way, because I've really been listening to coaches who I admire, who didn't follow the mainstream ways of building their businesses, and who encourage others who are following their path to also not follow the mainstream way of building a business, and not even to necessarily listen to them just because they're saying something, but to check it out and question and test it and see, will that really work for me? Does that feel good for how I want to get my results?
Yeah. Oh, you are speaking my language. That is why the I is the first part of I move, because if you are taking misaligned or incongruent action, you feel like you're spinning your wheels for 15 years, right? But when you can start taking aligned action, congruent action that makes sense for you and makes sense for your business, and you know that for yourself, then everything starts to fall into place, which it sounds like it is, which is so good.
Yes, so much.
So let's talk about marketing, right? You are standing out from the crowd, you have your niche, you have your messaging. What unconventional strategies have you found to be most effective for spreading the word about your painless piano coaching?
Well, I used to buy into the idea that I had to have my email newsletter go out every week. I used to buy into the idea that I had to have an amazing, fancy website and sales pages, and that I had to have all the social media platforms working and funneling people in, that I had to have this huge checklist of all the things in line and working before I would be able to be successful as an entrepreneur. And what I've really been excited and relieved to really discover over this last year is, especially the really big business coaches who I have become acquainted with and started following and taking tips from, they don't have a lot of that. And they do amazing in business. It's not all the pretty things that you have in place. It's who you are and the vibe that you present that attracts the right people to work with you, and repels the people who are not a good fit. It's not the pretty sales page or the amazing Facebook group with 20,000 people or any of that. It's really who you are, and just basically having a way for people to connect with you, which is what I use my links page for. People can have a few different ways of connecting with me, whatever strikes their fancy. And then we get connected, and I work really hard to build connections through, mainly Facebook is my favorite social media platform, and I don't worry about the rest too much, but connecting with those people who do come into my space through Facebook and chatting with them in the comments of posts that they find interesting, chatting with them in my Facebook groups when they have questions, and hopefully being able to set up conversations in the DMs, genuine conversations, not outreach combos necessarily, but where they are reaching out to me and asking a question about something that piqued their interest. And then we can naturally have a conversation about that. And if they want to go ahead and buy, then that's amazing. And I can send them a purchase link. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just a purchase link. And if they don't want to purchase that program, that's totally fine. We're still Facebook friends or whatever. And we go on our way until another day when something else catches their interest, and we might have a conversation about that. And whenever it's the right time, they'll work with me.
I love that. And I think that you've also highlighted in on the operations part of it, which is like simplify. You don't have to have a million and one things. And I say this all the time too, where I'm like, there's a million ways to make $1 million, right? And as entrepreneurs, it's like somebody said, I got to do this. And truth be told, you don't have to do most of those. 9 out of 10 you can get away without doing if you focus on that one that's the one that's driving the revenue in those pieces. So I love that, and I love that it also is a tie to the operational component. Is there any other operational things that you have implemented to help support the growth for your company?
I am still in the keeping it as simple as possible stage. I try to do lives and workshops, either free or low cost, fairly often still, just so that people can have more access to me for now, so that they can really see why I work with clients differently, what that actually looks like to be different, and why it's important for that difference, how it affects them to go home, and or not necessarily to go home, because we do Zoom sessions a lot of the time, but to go away from the computer and, tomorrow they sit down at their piano or even at the computer keyboard, because so much of what I encourage for posture at the piano can totally come to the computer desk.
Hmm.
So the next time they sit down at the piano or at their desk, if they think of that one thing that we talked about in the workshop, and they're like, oh yeah, if I just sit up a little bit differently, how we were talking about in that session, and suddenly their body just feels better and they have a little bit more stamina for the day, and they don't come away from the desk or the piano with those aches and pains that they normally might feel after standing up or whatever. And so they know that working with me will give them a little bit better quality of life.
That's super cool. That's way cool. I love that. And I think you also just tapped into like the strategies for velocity, right? How to get the velocity going, those workshops, offering those tips, more opportunities to get to know you and see how you're different, which is amazing. So let's
Yeah.
shift to execution. What is the big initiative that you're currently focusing on for the Painless Piano Coaching? And how are you executing on that to continue to move your business forward?
Well, right now it's kind of a two-pronged effort, I think. So right now I'm working on just my Painless Piano Player Zone, which is my free VIP group, which people can find on my links page, and just getting into a consistent routine of lives and workshops and funneling that into the higher paid programs that I offer, whether that's in person or via Zoom. And the second prong, which I'm really excited about, is setting up a watch party to celebrate the release of my season on Amazon TV.
Very cool. Very cool. And you've mentioned a couple of times as well that you have resources. And so we have in the description of this video the link to your resources. But why don't you share a little bit more about why our listeners, our watchers should go check it out?
Thank you. Well, so on my links page, you can always find the link to my Painless Piano Player Zone free piano group. And so there's a basic video in there talking about the first several steps to correct posture, whether you're sitting at a desk or at a piano, it's pretty much the same. And I'm also working on crafting that into more of a step-by-step mini video series, which will be in there at some point this spring. And then the second thing that people can look for is I'm always changing up the workshops that are either free or low cost on my links page. So if someone wants to come in and have a 1-day workshop or 3-day workshop, whatever it is currently being offered, we jump on Zoom for about half an hour each session, and we work through some common technique and repertoire learning challenges so that they can level up, as well as building in a few of those basic posture and technique building blocks that you really need to set you up for future success. So we just wrapped up Carnival of the Animals, Swan, last week, which was super fun, and most people would probably recognize that. If they don't know what I'm talking about, you'd probably recognize it if you heard it. So that was a lot of fun, and we had pianists of several different levels in that. And so usually that's my goal, is to also bring pianists of several different levels together. So as long as they're at a basic sight reading level so that they can follow along, we had up to, like an intermediate level even in the group, which was super fun. And so everyone can learn from each other instead of feeling like they're all kind of the same, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. I think that's an incredible resource. Sounds like you have so many different ways for people to learn about you, to look at what it would be like to work with you, and to even get some tips, even if they don't play piano, on how to have better workplace posture. So good. Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you that are listening and watching, remember to stay tuned. We will have more Get Good at Business highlights like this one with amazing business owners like Lorraine in the future. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us.